welcome to another video guys, Kris05 here. Today I want to give you guys 5 decks that I think will remain strong even in the new meta. This information should give you great advantage over your opponents who will be scattering to find a new meta deck that will still not be as refined and thought out as your decks, so stay tuned. The fact that you will be playing an old and well-known deck will be a slight disadvantage for you, but overall I think you will profit a lot using these 5 decks in the new meta. First, let's start off with the good old new Heal Warlock. This is one of the cheapest and most effective decks out there right now, and I feel this fact will remain unchanged in the new meta as well. The new expansion gave a few good inclusions to this Warlock classic, which will make the deck a bit more expensive. I am sure the new Warlock legendary spell will find place in here, as well as a doubling imp. Soul Infusion might also get included, since it's gonna be insane on the new imp, as well as on the Chain Gang. Giggling Inventor seems like a cool card to get included in this deck too, but I'm not sure if there will be place for him. The fact that you will have constant pressure against your opponent with your insane tempo should punish those slow and greedy decks we will surely see, especially in the beginning of the new meta, so prepare for the call. Yeah, your opponents will know exactly what they are playing against after you play your first turn, but that won't give them that much of an advantage, since they will have probably mulliganed incorrectly against you and won't have the resources to deal with your massive tempo. Next, let's look at Odd Rogue. This deck has shown good results ever since it saw the light of day, and I think it is safe to say that it will remain a high tier deck in the Boomsday meta. It has the tools to prevail over most of its opponents, and if piloted correctly, it can do wonders for you. There aren't really any new cards that provide support for Odd Rogue, except maybe Crazed Chemist, which I think will get included in most of this deck's versions. Giggling Inventor could again maybe find a place in this deck, since it helps versus those pesky Odd Paladins, which will also be a factor in the new meta. Aggro decks, like this one, usually dominate the early meta, since you will play against either other aggro decks, versus which you are better most of the time, or against unrefined control decks, which you should be able to outperform. Both this deck and Warlock are great for quick ranking in the early meta, since you will be able to do more than 10 games in 1 hour, and that will help you climb faster even with a not so great win rate. Speaking of odd decks, I believe Odd Paladin will survive, and we'll see a lot of him in the future too. This deck is really dominating early metas, since it punishes greedy unrefined decks nicely, and it counters some aggro decks too. Odd Paladin didn't really receive much support from the new cards, but Shrink Ray should definitely find place in the new version. Giggling Inventor also has potential to get included again, but I am not sure he will make the cut. Most people are sick from seeing this deck, but if ranks is what you want, then this should help you out a lot, while others are trying to figure out what they're supposed to do with all of their new cards. This deck is really cheap too, since you don't really need any other legendaries other than Baku. Yeah, you could include Leroy, but you will do just fine most of the time without him too, so if Dust is an issue, this would be a great option for you. So these were the 3 fast aggro decks I am certain will carry on to the new meta. Now let's look at 2 slow control decks, starting off with the community's favorite, Shudderwalk Shaman. Boo! What? You don't like Shudderwalk? Shocker! So yeah, Shudderwalk Shammy should remain strong in the new meta again. I know some people really hate it, but you should know that the deck isn't as easy to play as it seems, and it takes a good amount of skill to pilot it. Personally, I am not very good with that deck myself, so I am not a big fan of it too, but it is obvious it will see a lot of play in the future. The deck received a lot of interesting support from the new expansion, and will get even more refined and annoying. Electra should find place in this deck, a Mega Mind might get included, and even Elementary Reaction has potential here. Coppertail Imposter might also get used, since it will give your Shudderwalk stealth, in case something goes wrong. This deck is really versatile, and a lot of things can get replaced with other stuff, and we might even see a more elemental oriented type of this deck in the near future. It is overall very effective, since it can usually stall the game for as long as it likes with all of the powerful tools it has in its disposal. I know many people hope that Shudderwalk will remain in the past, but you will have to find ways to deal with it in the future seasons again. Now, I will probably get some hate for this, but let's finish off with my favorite deck at this moment, Malygos Druid. Yep, Malygos Druid will remain a top tier deck in the future months to come. Much like Shudderwalk, it has a ton of super useful high impact tools at its disposal and can just drag the game till it has its complete combo. After we saw all of the new powerful cards from the expansion, we can safely say that it will be a lot easier than before to pull off the combo, with Libidinous Floop, the new Biology project, and Dream Petal Florist. Cards like Gloop Sprayer, Juicy Psych Melon, and Floop's Glorious Gloop might also become staples in this deck, and will replace Innervate, Wrath, and Ferocious Howl, and that will further boost the power level of this powerhouse. If everything I said so far turns out to be right, Malygos Druid will have a great time in the new meta, since this deck stomps all of the above most of the time. Only Shudderwalk is a 50-50, but if you know what you're doing, the odds will go heavily in your favor. So these are the 5 decks I believe will transition really well in the new meta. I am sure a lot more decks will do the same just fine, but these were my top 5 picks, so don't get discouraged I didn't talk about your favorite deck. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. The channel reached 2000 subs in only 7 months, and I want to say a huge thank you to all of you guys for supporting me on this incredible journey. Feel free to like my Facebook page and even add me on Facebook so we can stay in touch. I always enjoy chatting with you guys and will never turn you down if you need some advice for the game. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05 and I'll see you in my next video.